Love makes people say crazy things, especially when they're legally binding. 1. The Bacon Vow. One groom decided to profess his eternal love and his favorite breakfast. He stood at the altar, took his bride's hands, and said, "You are the eggs to my bacon, the only woman who makes me sizzle." The officiant tried to keep a straight face, but half the guests were already picturing him proposing over a skillet. "His bride?" She laughed, then whispered, "As long as you don't bring home the sausage." Somewhere, Cupid just dropped his bow and said, "I'm out." 2. The Conditional Promise. A bride in Ohio delivered a vow so specific it could have doubled as a lease agreement. She promised to love him forever, as long as he doesn't touch the thermostat. She followed that with a legally binding clause about putting the toilet seat down and not speaking during The Bachelor. The priest paused, looked at the groom and said, "Son, do you accept these terms?" He nodded. The audience clapped, and thus began the most carefully negotiated marriage since the Louisiana Purchase. 3. The Gamer's Pledge. During his vows, one groom looked deep into his bride's eyes and said, "You're the ultimate player too, even when you steal my loot." The crowd laughed, assuming it was cute gamer banter. Then he pulled out an Xbox controller, placed it between them, and said, "With this controller, I thee wed." His bride, bless her heart, plugged it in later that night and deleted his save file. True love is patient, kind, and sometimes deeply vengeful. 4. The Pizza Vow. One couple in Chicago decided their vows should reflect what truly held their relationship together: pizza. The groom opened his vows with, "I knew you were the one when you didn't judge me for ordering a large just for myself." Then he pulled out a slice, yes, an actual slice, and held it up like a sacred relic. "I promise to never take the last piece, unless you say you're full, and we both know you're lying." The crowd howled. The officiant tried to remind them this was a wedding, not a late-night delivery commercial. When they kissed, someone in the back yelled, "Extra cheese on that?" Honestly, it was the most honest depiction of modern romance. Equal parts grease, carbs, and commitment. 5. The Dog Over You Declaration. A bride from Austin used her vows to clarify the household hierarchy, and the groom wasn't at the top. Looking lovingly into his eyes, she said, "I promise to always walk with you through life, though probably behind the dog." She paused, turned to her golden retriever sitting proudly in a tuxedo, and added, "And don't worry, Cooper, no one's replacing you." The groom smiled like a man who knew resistance was futile. Later in the vows, she promised to love him almost as much as the dog, which got a standing ovation from every pet owner in attendance. The officiant sighed, "You may kiss your husband." And then the dog, apparently, somewhere, St. Valentine just face-palmed. 6. The Brutally Honest Bride. At a rustic wedding in Montana, the bride decided to skip the romance and go straight for realism. "I vow to love you in sickness and in health," she began, "but not when you chew loudly or breathe like Darth Vader in your sleep." Her groom laughed, nervously. She continued, "I promise to support your dreams, even if they involve buying another useless drone. And I swear to always pretend your dad jokes are funny, for at least 5 years." The crowd erupted. Her father-in-law muttered, "Good luck." The ceremony ended with a kiss that said this woman will run the house, and honestly, the groom looked proud to surrender. 7. The Disney Disaster. A couple of lifelong Disney fans decided to write vows inspired by their favorite movies. What could go wrong? The bride entered to a whole new world, and the groom greeted her with, "You've got a friend in me." So far, cute. But then he launched into full theatrical mode. "You're my Simba, my Ariel, my Elsa, who never lets it go." He tried to sing the last line. He shouldn't have. Guests weren't sure if it was a wedding or an audition for a very confused talent show. To top it off, he ended with, "Our love is stronger than Mufasa's grip on that cliff." Gasps, laughter. Even the flower girl looked traumatized. Still, the bride smiled, because if she could survive that vow, she could survive anything. 8. The Karaoke Proposal. Revisited in Las Vegas, a groom decided his vows should be sung, not spoken. He grabbed the mic like a rock star and started belting out a heartfelt version of "I Want to Know What Love Is." Unfortunately, love apparently sounds like off-key yelling when fueled by tequila. The bride tried to join in, but he shushed her because, and I quote, "This is my solo." Halfway through, he forgot the lyrics and improvised, "You're my tax deduction, my better connection." Romantic? Not exactly. Memorable? Absolutely. By the time he dropped to his knees mid-chorus, the DJ had already faded the music out of mercy. When he finished, he triumphantly yelled, "Nailed it!" The crowd clapped, partly out of pity, partly because they knew no wedding video would ever top that performance. 9. The Wi-Fi password. Promise. Some couples share love, others share a router. One tech-obsessed groom began his vows with, "I promise to always share my Wi-Fi, my Netflix, and my two-step verification codes with you." His bride, equally nerdy, countered with, "And I promise to never forget the password, even when you inevitably change it." Then they sealed their vows by naming their new home network Till Death Dousland. The priest just stared at them like he'd accidentally walked into a Best Buy commercial. But to their credit, they were perfectly in sync, literally. They both said, "I do" at the exact same time, proving that sometimes the best connection really is wireless. 10. The overly theatrical groom. This man didn't just say his vows, he performed them. He hired a fog machine, he had background music, he even had a spotlight operator, his cousin, clearly underpaid. As his bride stood there smiling politely, he stepped forward and declared, "My love for you burns brighter than the fire of 1,000 suns." Then the smoke machine malfunctioned, filling the altar with a dense haze that set off the fire alarm. Guests were coughing, the officiant was fanning the air with the Bible, and the bride? She just mouthed, "This is why we can't have nice things." The vows ended with a forced kiss in a literal cloud of chaos, which, to be fair, perfectly summed up marriage. 11. The X Clause. Catastrophe in Kansas. A groom thought it'd be funny to include a little comedy in his vows. Spoiler, it wasn't. He said, "I promise to love you more than all my exes combined." His bride froze. Then he doubled down. "And that's saying something. You've met Jessica." The guests collectively gasped like they were watching live theater. The officiant blinked twice, clearly wondering if he should call a timeout. The bride, to her credit, smiled sweetly and whispered into the mic, "Don't worry, I'll make sure you never compare us again." The tension was thicker than the wedding cake. They still got married, but rumor has it the honeymoon was quiet. Very quiet. 12. The Zombie Apocalypse. Vow not every couple dreams of white doves and sunsets. Some dream of survival. One prepper couple from Arizona wrote vows that sounded more like an emergency response manual. The groom swore to defend her from all threats, foreign, domestic, and undead. The bride promised to never eat the last can of beans without permission. Guests laughed, until the groom pulled out a machete for symbolism. The officiant looked ready to call security. The ceremony ended with them locking pinky fingers and shouting, "Till the outbreak do us part." It was the first wedding where the registry included crossbows and canned chili. True love may be eternal, but for them, it was also tactical. 13. The mom-in-law approval. Vow. Some people vow before God, others apparently before their mother-in-law. At a cozy garden wedding in Michigan, the groom took a deep breath, looked lovingly at his bride, and then at her mom. "I promise," he said, "to love your daughter as much as you do, and to never forget who really runs this family." The crowd chuckled. The bride blushed. Her mother nodded approvingly like a mafia boss witnessing a loyalty oath. But then he added, "And I promise to call you every Sunday for updates and dinner suggestions." The laughter stopped. The bride turned slowly and said, "You will not." It turned into the most polite standoff in history, the kind where everyone's smiling, but you can hear emotional gunfire. Still, they made it official, and rumor has it, he hasn't missed a Sunday call since, out of fear, not devotion. 14. The financial honesty. Promise. This bride didn't believe in sugarcoating. She believed in transparency and public accountability. In front of 200 guests, she said, "I vow to always tell you when I've overspent on Amazon, after the packages arrive." The audience roared. Her groom smirked and replied, "And I promise to pretend I didn't see the credit card bill." But she wasn't done. I also vow to never judge your impulse buys, unless it's another useless drone, and then I reserve the right to roast you mercilessly. The officiant, a family friend, whispered, "This might be the most fiscally honest marriage I've ever seen." They sealed their vows with a kiss. Right after the bride added, "Also, we're returning that espresso machine you bought last week." 15. The TikTok trend disaster. Because nothing says eternal love like chasing internet clout. A social media-addicted couple decided their vows needed to go viral. Instead of traditional words, they choreographed a vow dance. Yes, interpretive vows. The groom danced out loyalty with jazz hands. The bride mimed trust with slow-motion twirls. Half the guests thought it was modern art. The other half quietly Googled escape routes. At the end, they posed mid-dip while their friend yelled, "And cut!" Because, of course, this wasn't a ceremony, it was content. Later, when the video did hit TikTok, the comment section summed it up best. Nothing says true love like monetized embarrassment. 16. The medical emergency moment. In Florida, naturally, a couple decided to get married on the beach at noon in August. As the bride began her vows under the blazing sun, she said, "I vow to love you forever," and then fainted face first into the sand. The groom froze. The best man screamed. The officiant just muttered, "Well, that's a first." Everyone rushed to help as someone yelled, "She's fine, keep going," which honestly felt on brand for Florida. 5 minutes and 2 bottles of water later, she was back on her feet, laughing. "I guess I just fell for him," she quipped, proving even heat stroke couldn't kill her sense of humor. They finished their vows in the shade this time, and she ended with, "I promise to always stay cool," literally. 17. The drunk best man interruption. Every wedding has that guy. Halfway through a tearful exchange of vows, the best man, already 5 champagnes deep, stumbled to the mic. Wait, he slurred. "I got something to say." The officiant tried to stop him. The groom shook his head like, "Please, not again." But it was too late. The best man hiccuped and said, "You guys are like bread and butter, but like soggy bread." He then attempted to toast them with an empty glass, dropped it, and declared, "You're welcome." The guests lost it. The bride just sighed and whispered, "He's your friend." The groom nodded in defeat. The best man passed out 10 minutes later during the cake cutting, which, in fairness, was the most peaceful part of his performance. 18. The Thermostat Treaty. Some couples argue about money. These two drafted a climate accord. During vows, the groom promised never to drop the thermostat below 70 C2, except during playoff season. The bride countered with a laminated chart labeled Acceptable Household Temperatures by Month and Mood. It included emergency clauses, +2 if I'm sick, 1 if you're cooking, and a ceasefire rule for surprise heat waves. The officiant glanced at the chart like it was the Geneva Convention. Then she added the nuclear option. "If you touch it without a quorum, I get the remote for a week." The guests cheered. The groom saluted. They signed the Treaty of Living Room with a Sharpie and a handshake. It wasn't romantic, but it was the sexiest thing an energy bill ever saw. 19. The food allergies plus honesty. Vow. This pair took transparency to Michelin star levels. "I vow to tell you whenever your new recipe tastes like regret," the groom declared. "And I vow to never hide mushrooms," the bride replied, "because I love you and would prefer you not die." Then came the pact. No secret onions, no sneaky cilantro, and absolutely no lying about spice levels. "If it's medium," she said. "We both know that means lava." He promised to keep EpiPens stocked like seasoning, and she promised to stop saying "you'll grow to like it" about kale. They sealed it with a bite of wedding cake labeled with ingredients and heat index. Romance is nice. Not going into anaphylaxis is nicer. 20. The time management promise. Their love language? Calendars. The bride vowed to be ready on time, plus a 5-minute grace period that is not a lie. The groom promised to stop scheduling one quick errand before every important event. They unveiled a shared calendar titled Us versus Chaos, with recurring entries like buffer time, because traffic, obviously, and leave shoes by door so we don't do the shoe panic. Guests nodded like they'd all survived late couples. Final clause. Whichever partner makes them late must deliver one sincere apology and one coffee with the correct order, not the close enough version. The officiant set a timer as a joke. It went off right as they kissed. Perfect punctuality. For once. 21. The chore draft ceremony. Forget bouquets. They drafted chores like an NFL combine. A velvet bag held sticks labeled dishes, laundry, trash, bathrooms, vacuum, litter box, Saturday breakfast, and the mystery sticky thing under the fridge. They took turns pulling tasks while the crowd chanted, "Take trash," like it was 4th and goal. When the groom drew litter box, he accepted his fate like a knight choosing dragon duty. She drew bathrooms and requested hazard pay in the form of foot rubs. They set a bye week. Whoever hosts in-laws gets chore immunity for 48 hours. It was the first time a marriage ceremony ended with a trade. He swapped Saturday breakfast for vacuum and threw in a back massage to sweeten the deal. Commissioner, aka officiant, approved. 22. The forever roommate clause. 2 former roommates turned spouses wrote vows like a lease renewal. "I vow to replace the toilet paper correctly," he began. "Over, not under. We are not animals." She vowed to stop leaving one sad sip of orange juice in the carton like a citrus crime scene. He promised to do the dishes the same day, not when a fork shortage triggers societal collapse. She promised to stop weaponizing throw pillows. They both vowed to never say, "Who's we?" when chores appear. Final line, "I will always knock before entering your mental room." Sweet, specific, and actually useful. The deposit? Their dignity, already non-refundable. 23. The travel compatibility. Pledge Airport stress breaks couples. These two preempted it with policy. She vowed to arrive 2 hours early, and he vowed to stop calling that camping at gate 12. He promised to accept her sacred boarding ritual. Snacks, charger, backup charger, neck pillow the size of a beanbag. She promised not to judge his window seat weather commentary. They swore never to say, "It's just a short layover," and to treat any connection under 50 minutes as a survival film. Luggage clause. 1 checked, 1 carry-on, unlimited snacks. If a flight gets canceled, the first to cry gets first shower at the hotel. They ended with, "In turbulence and in calm, in delays and in upgrades." And honestly, that's real love. With frequent flyer miles. 24. The "there's an app for vows" ceremony. Who needs an officiant when you've got a subscription? A techie couple used a wedding app that promised custom vows, legal paperwork, and tasteful fireworks. At the altar, he tapped "Generate Vows," and the screen demanded a software update. He stalled with small talk while the app rebooted, then hit "Continue," only to be hit with 2-factor authentication. "Check your email," he whispered. She'd left her phone in the bridal suite. Cue the maid of honor sprinting in heels like an Olympic hurdler. They finally logged in and got a CAPTCHA. Select all squares with pigeons. 10 tense taps later, the app read the vows in a soothing, robotic voice that pronounced her name, Kaylee Brashan. The confetti feature misfired at "You May Kiss," blasting Uncle Ron in the face. Not traditional, but undeniably modern. Love, commitment, and a 14-day free trial. 25. The ring pop commitment. Sometimes love is sweet. Sometimes it's shelf-stable and comes in grape. The couple's inside joke was ring pops, so they swapped candy instead of bands. Cute, until the August heat turned his emerald into a purple glacier slide. Sticky vows, sugary hands, ants forming a union at their feet. Mid-ceremony, the flower girl asked, "Can I have a lick?" And before anyone could stop her, chomp, she bit off half the groom's ring. The officiant paused, deadpan. "By the power vested in me and whatever candy remains, I now declare you extremely sticky." Later, the photos looked like a beautiful wedding sponsored by a snack aisle. Romance fades, grape stains don't. 26. The Love KPI Dashboard. This groom brought metrics to a knife fight with feelings. He rolled out a projector, slides labeled Q1, Q4 relationship performance. Graphs showed cuddle frequency, apology response time, and a pie chart titled Reasons We Fought, 48% temperature, 31% dishes, 21% tone. He promised to raise her husband NPS from 72 to 90 within 12 months via listening sprints and chore OKRs. The crowd howled, but he wasn't done. He unveiled a service-level agreement. Laundry resolved within 24 hours, critical hugs in under 5 minutes. The bride countered with a single bullet point. Stop saying "per my last email" in real life. He nodded, adjusted his laser pointer like a defeated TED Talker, and kissed her. Best quarterly earnings call ever. 27. The Tattooed Vows Experiment. Permanent love? Meet permanent QR codes. Instead of rings, they revealed tiny wrist tattoos that linked to their vows online. Guests lined up to scan like it was Black Friday at a phone store. Problem 1, Grandma's flip phone. Problem 2, the best man's scan opened a YouTube playlist titled "Songs My Ex Ruined." Problem 3, the venue Wi-Fi died, so half the crowd got a 404 page that said "Love Not Found." The bride laughed, the groom blushed, and the officiant tried with his tablet. Success, except it auto-played a Rickroll at stadium volume. The entire room sang along because if you're going to commit forever, you might as well start with a prank and a chorus. 28. The AI-written vows catastrophe. Grand finale. They asked a chatbot to make our vows poetic, funny, and timeless. It was bold. The groom read first, beautiful metaphors. Then it thanked the bride for patiently teaching me to load the dishwasher like Jessica did. Silence. Who's Jessica? The AI had been trained on his texts, all of them. The bride's turn went worse. Her vows quoted a Yelp review she'd written about a disappointing brunch. Our relationship, like these eggs, deserved better presentation. The parents looked ready to unplug the internet at the fuse box. The bot closed with, "We will be 5-star partners, would recommend to friends." A beat. Then the bride laughed, he laughed, and they ad-libbed the real stuff. "I love you, even when technology doesn't." They kissed. The crowd roared. The algorithm failed, but the humans didn't, which is the whole point. Pick the dumbest vow and defend it in the comments. Courage counts.